I find my boss and ask if I can call my father. He hands me the Thuraya satellite phone. I'm amazed that this small phone is powerful enough to send a signal into space. I call my father and smile at the irony. I've never been closer to him emotionally than when I've been furthest from him physically. It's 5 a.m. I suit up and jump in the back of a Humvee. My mission as Taji is done, and I'm going to Bayji, 150 miles north of Baghdad. Our plan is to drive up Highway 1. Along the way, we'll pass Samarra, which is home to the Shia Golden Mosque and the famous malwiay minaret, which translates as snail shell, and was built in 848 AD. The other famous town past Samarra on Highway 1 is Tikrit, the birthplace of Saladin, a Kurdish Muslim who defended Jerusalem against the Crusaders in the 12th century, and of Saddam Hussein. It's also the place where Saddam was captured, hiding in a hole on December 15, 2003. We've been driving for several hours, and the commander asked the driver to find a secluded place to stop. The soldiers jump out, scout, and secure a perimeter so the other soldiers can refresh, relieve, reload, and refuel. I look back at the trucks my father used in Algeria, and today's Humvees offer a lot more protection. One of the soldiers asked me to man his post while he relieves himself, and I'm left manning his M249 squad assault weapon pointed into the desert. All the while, I'm hoping and praying nothing happens. We get back on the road and drive north on Highway 1 towards the city of Samarra. And as we approach the city, the commander yells, "Heads up!" I see a fleet of black BMWs fall on us and hear gunfire. Our gunner opens up his 50 cal. We are being chased by the fadayeen, which means those who will sacrifice in Arabic. They give up the chase, and several days later, I find out we were in the Samarra firefight, which killed 5 Americans, 3 Koreans, 7 Spaniards, and 2 Japanese diplomats. We arrive at Bayji, which is an industrial and oil refining center of Iraq, and houses a large underground oil refinery, which was thought to be producing the nerve gas cyclosarin. We drive past Bayji to the Iraq military airfield outside of town. Our camp and housing are literally on the other side of the road from the town and a mosque. We check in with the Suxo, who informs us of the Samarra firefight. He assigns me a bunk, and I set up my gear in preparation for my work. I meet the rest of the crew and get invited to play a game of poker. The guys are curious to hear about the Samarra firefight. My father had said never turn down a chance to be with your friends, as it may be the last time you ever see them. I am curious and want to explore the base. The weather is nice, the sun is out, and the temperature is warming up. One of the guys finds it warm enough to sunbathe and journal about his experiences. I go and check out the tanks, trying to figure out why they're all pointed out west. There's nothing in that direction for hundreds of miles. I was told not to wander off the pavement. Now I understand why. This tank is a landmine sweeper. It's getting dark, and the temperature is dropping to the point of being uncomfortable. It's eerily silent and still as the setting sun illuminates a mountain range in the west. I look slightly to the north and see gas flames from oil refineries, most likely from the city of Kirkuk. In a flash, I experience one of those moments where you feel so agonizingly alone and vulnerable, as if you were the only person on the planet, and there wasn't a God. There's an explosion in the far-off distance, and I'm snapped out of my trance. This isn't the time or place for feelings, if one wants to survive. I hear tanks starting up their engines and start walking down the strip to investigate, but then my Suxo yells out, "Hey, want a ride to the chow hall?" I jump into the back of the truck, my hunger stronger than my curiosity. The chow hall is small, cold, and bare, and the food is all canned or packaged. It's pretty depressing. The next day the sun is out and it's warmer. I'm feeling better, not as depressed, and decide to get in a quick workout. The Suxo's voice announces, "Fire in the hole," over the radio. We see a flash in the horizon. then feel the shockwave. 100 tons of munitions have been destroyed. We jump in the truck and head to the range, being careful to drive on the road as there are landmines all around. I blink twice to make sure I'm not seeing things. I haven't a clue as to how it ended up here. The storage hangars are spread wide apart because they store more ordnance than usual or safe. A soldier's keeping watch over Kurds that are working, setting up for demolition in the distance. Being Kurds, they are hardworking and trustworthy, needing very little supervision. I have a few minutes before I can start work, so I wander around and explore. I see a sign, and beyond it what looks like graves. A typical devout Muslim's grave has no markers or identification, the ultimate sign of surrender to Allah. Sharia law states grave markers should not be over 30 centimeters high, and outwardly lavish grave markers and monuments are discouraged in Islam. However, it is becoming more common for rich families to erect grave monuments. I am given permission to enter the range, so I jump into a truck and drive down a gravel road. I am instructed to follow and drive only on previous tread marks and not to go off the road, as landmines are strewn throughout the area. We walk out to missiles laying on the ground. These are surface-to-air missiles used to destroy aircraft. Then I walk over to inspect a fully functional 2-stage surface-to-air missile and can't resist the urge to imitate Slim Pickens riding the nuke down to oblivion in Stanley Kubrick's movie Dr. Strangelove. We inspect the munitions and are overwhelmed by the volume and confused by the variety. For example, surface to surface, air to surface, surface to air, low altitude bombs, JTOs, payload casings, and the outlawed South African cluster bombs. The Suxo yells, "Get your ass back here now!" I don't hesitate and run back to the truck. There's been a perimeter breach, and the soldiers are ordered back to the radio bunker immediately. The Suxo is yelling out orders to soldiers and techs on the radio. "What's your 20? What's your ETA?" Then turns to me, points to a stack of ammo crates, each weighing 35 to 50 pounds, and instructs me to carry as many as I can to the top of the bunker. I place the crates of 5.56 by 45mm NATO cartridges down close to the M249 saw, hunker down, and watch all the troops, driving like bats out of hell, back to the bunker. A truck with a Mark 19 40mm auto grenade launcher positions itself, ready to lay down 400 rounds a minute if necessary. A soldier yells at me to man the gun, keep my head down, and don't shoot unless all hell breaks loose. I'm too busy reacting to feel fear. Now I understand what my father had meant about being too busy surviving to feel fear. After 15 minutes, the Suxo yells all clear and for everyone to pack up. So we hop in the truck and drive back to base. Everyone is quiet and edgy. We get back to base, park the vehicles, and unload our gear and notice no one is around. I see a flash, feel a shockwave, and hear a blast within the blink of an eye. I had no time to react, it happened so fast. A mortar landed on the other side of the truck, which absorbed the blast and blocked the shrapnel. Otherwise, we would all have been killed. The manager, knowing what had happened, jokingly asked, "How was your day, honey? Oh, by the way, dinner's on the table." Local Iraqis had brought food. The others were suspicious of poisoning. Having lived with the Arabs, I knew better and ate with gusto. I wash up, do some laundry, and hang my clothes to dry. I head back to my hooch, get into my winter sleeping bag, and read. It's very cold and raining hard, and as luck would have it, my hooch is right under a leak. All I can do is move out of the way. The next day, the ground is so wet and muddy that vehicles bog down and work is suspended. A tech finds a dying puppy dog on base and brings it to a medic, who gives it a shot of saline to rehydrate it. All it needs now is some food and rest. The radio tech is having intermittent connectivity issues and not sure if it's a power issue, such as the generator's power regulator not holding steady voltage, or a wire continuity issue, such as a frayed wire, connector, or moisture in the coax cable. One of the Blackwater mercs asked me to help him troubleshoot the cable continuity issue. Having given him a hard time about being a 50-year-old mercenary, he tells me to pick up the sledgehammer, as I am younger, stronger, and stupider. We climb up to the top of the radio bunker and visually inspect and double-check the coax cable and connectors. The next step is to put the radio in its own generator and voltage regulator. We pull out a spare and set it up far enough away from the door as not to asphyxiate ourselves from the fumes. Another more experienced radio tech is brought in, and he deassembles and reassembles the radio components, re-terminating all the cables, then going through a series of radio checks and declares the problem fixed. After fixing the radio, we are instructed to head to the demo site. But before we do, we light up cigars for job well done. Then we climb aboard trucks and head out with the UXOs to the site. We arrive at the site. The demo pit has already been dug by a backhoe. We are told to be careful as the site is littered with razor-sharp shrapnel, which will cut through boots. The UXOs descend into the pit and outline a rough estimate of the pit's floor. Then they get more precise about where they're going to lay down the pallets of munition and start to tap down the dirt with their feet so the pallets or forklifts don't keel over. Only UXOs are allowed at the demo site when handling munitions, so we are instructed to evacuate with all non-essential personnel to a safe site several miles away. When we arrive at the safe site, the Army has blocked off the road until after the demo. Iraqi farmers and herders rush out of the blast zone before the last klaxon sounds. My bodyguard, a petite 5 foot 2 inches 23-year-old Samoan girl, tells me the demo has been put on hold so that Oliver North and his news crew can get in place to film the demolition. One of the perimeter guard UXOs gets a call over the radio, and he relays his status and gives his all clear. We hear the 3 blasts of the safety klaxons and see a flash from the demolition. 2 100 tons of munition are being destroyed, creating an enormous fireball which lights up the sky. We are so far away from the explosion it takes 10 seconds for us to hear the blast. By that time, the fireballs have turned into an eerie mushroom clouds. We feel the shockwave, and everyone lets out a deep and primal yell of accomplishment and victory. The munitions will not be turned into IEDs against our troops. We pack up and start driving back to base, passing numerous small subsistence farms. The countryside is quiet and eerily beautiful. I have to remind myself, I am still in a war zone.